that applause goes out to Jonathan Isaac. I hope all of you have seen um, the story, the picture of the one man while everybody else is kneeling and capitulating to the Black Lives Matter narrative. One man stood and said, I'm not doing that. And what I really love about that is that when they asked him afterwards about it, he preached the gospel. Um, I bow, I bow to you, Jonathan Isaac, because you don't see a lot of people being brave right now. You just don't. You see a lot of people that are scared. They, they're just giving in to everything. Everybody's supposed to go along, and those who don't go along, they're going to pay. And we need to pray for this guy because they're going to come after him. This guy has stood up against the enemy, and the enemy's going to come after him. And so, those of you Christians know who I'm talking about, and those who aren't Christians, um, let's just call them the left. Um, they're the devil's minions. They are going to probably go after this guy. I think the idea that he spoke the gospel, I think on the one hand, makes me think that the first strategy they'll probably employ is to just try to ignore him because they definitely don't want to speak to him again. I mean, the idea that they go and ask him why he would do that, and then he tells them about the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. That's the last thing they wanted to hear, right? The devil's minions don't want to hear that. So, um, so I love it. I think it's great, and I think this guy needs prayer, and I think this is great hope in this time when everybody, and this is the thing, when it's in the darkest nights where the stars shine, right? And this guy's a star. This guy's a, I can't say enough about this, and it comes on. I hesitate to even get into this, but I think for me personally, it bears mentioning the fact that um, I want to compare this guy who I'm so happy to see and what he did, and compare him to what another athlete that I thought that I had great hope in regards, and maybe still do, but right now he's floundering in regards to what I think the right way to achieve this is, and that's Benjamin Watson. He's a strong Christian man, a genius of a guy, and everything that I see now is this. He's doing this capitulation, this sort of wishy-washy, bridging the gap between um, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I don't know how you do that. I don't know why you do that as a Christian. I don't know how you do that. And it's funny because this image of all these black men, these big, strong black men, bowing their knee with these Black Lives Matter shirts, and it goes, I'm just repeating what other people have said. And so if you don't know this, you should by now, that the Black Lives Matter movement is a horrible movement. And it's a horrible movement for a Christian. And it's a horrible movement for a man. They're against men. And so, in this time when Black Lives Matter, the saying is supposed to be about what's specifically the black community is dealing with, the primary burden of this, however you see this issue transpiring, the primary burden, those who are dying in the streets, are far majoritively black men. And yet this group is not for men. If you're a woman who thinks she's a man, therefore that person. If it's a man that thinks they're a woman, therefore that person. They're not for dads, fathers. They're not for the nuclear family. Anyway, I didn't want to get into all that. I mean, you guys should know this by now. Black Lives Matter, the group, is terrible. But I also wanted to get into the idea that Black Lives Matter, just the saying isn't great, and the reason why I think people miss, and I understand what people say about this. That the idea is that um, black people, and I just mentioned this, black people are dealing with something that white people aren't dealing with. And, you know, maybe that's true, maybe that isn't true. And we can talk, there's certainly, it's a complex issue regardless of the situation. So, um, but the point is people fail to understand what it means when you say Black Lives Matter, as opposed to um, just dealing with a corrupt justice system. Okay, because what you're doing, and I know people are tired of hearing this argument, but the argument paints the context for the whole issue. The reason why people complain that Black Lives Matter doesn't care about when other black men are killing other black men in Chicago and other areas just like it is because it doesn't just point out hypocrisy. It doesn't just do that. Likewise, the issue with abortion, all these black babies that are killed, and Black Lives Matter doesn't seem to care about that. In fact, they're pro-abortion. So how could they be for something killing black lives? It doesn't make sense. But it's not even just the hypocrisy of it. It's what that implies, because they only care about the black life that's killed by the white man. So it isn't to say Black Lives Matter. It's not promotion or protection of a certain group that's in a certain issue now. That's the way everybody wants to play it. That's not it at all. It's about being against the white man, specifically cops in general, but also white men in general. We saw that with the Ahmaud Arbery situation as well, or the Trayvon Martin situation. I think that's what sparked the whole Black Lives Matter movement anyway. And that guy was half white, but it doesn't matter. Everything's white. And the important point of this isn't to say, see, people focus on and saying they're an advocate for black people, but understand when they aren't an advocate for the black man who gets killed by the black man, or they're not an advocate for the black boys and girls that are killed in the womb, they're not an advocate for black people. They're an advocate against that. They are an opponent to the white man. That's what they are. And here's the thing, and that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but I mean it is what it is. But as a Christian, you can't support that. It's funny because I was thinking about this today, and I'm like, how can Christians support this? And I know how they it's sold to us, so I get it, but people got to look past this, because you get into a scenario where people, so here I am, I'm white, I'm the white guy, I'm the enemy of everybody, right? The way the political correct narrative pushes this stuff, I'm the bad guy. I've got a son who's 6. He hasn't done anything to anybody, but he's the enemy for some reason. So this idea of Martin Luther King saying content of character, like, where did that go? Your actions mean nothing, and you know who the victim is by their skin color, and you know who the victimizer is by their skin color. That's racist, actually, right? When did that not become racist? When did that all of a sudden change? When did the definition of racism change? And this is why they call it systematic racism. And that's why they say things like microaggression, because you can't pin them down then. They can just make up whatever they want. They can just say, yeah, you may not act racist, you may not do racist things, but you're the beneficiary of the racism. Or you're internalizing it. It's in you, but even though we can't see it. So you can't pin them down. There's no evidence for it, right? And you think about how negative this is for the Christian, because this is one of the problems with this. Everybody says racism is a terrible thing. And the people who say it's so terrible they have to get up in arms and do all these things, like Black Lives Matter does, they're definitely, what they're definitely saying is racism's a bad thing. Okay, let's go with that. Racism is a bad thing. But they have no problem pointing at somebody they have almost none or zero evidence of being racist and accusing them of it. Dear Christian, if you're if you're alongside Black Lives Matter, Let me tell you who makes accusations in the Bible. That would be Satan, the accuser of the brethren. That's what Satan does. And it's funny because I was thinking about this, and G. Craig Lewis did a video I saw on YouTube just today about the accuser of the brethren, and so he's seeing the same thing. You can't be a Christian, and this is why Jonathan Isaac, and some people may not understand this. What does being a Christian have to do with standing? Like others would go, oh, he's not standing for black lives. You're missing the point. You're being manipulated by the media. It's conforming you to this world. You need to break out of that and read your Bible and renew your mind, because this is what the enemy does. You're on the side of the devil. If you're the accuser of people with no evidence of this, how can you possibly be doing right? How can you possibly name the name of Christ and do this? How can you justify this under the title of Christian? You cannot do that. And that's what somebody like Jonathan Isaac sees. And God bless him for standing up. And I wish other people would do that. I wish people like Ben Watson, who I thought saw things clearly, who's smart. I don't know how, I don't know how he's missing this. The thing is, like, the Drew Brees situation is a really good microcosm of this. Here's a man who's done so much for the community that he lives in. I think majority of them are black. Why? Because I assume because he's a Christian. I know he's a Christian. I went to a men's conference when he spoke one time. It was a Christian men's conference. So I know he claims Christianity, and he seems to be acting, isn't that what we want? Somebody who acts like a Christian, who gives their money and time and effort to helping people. And people treated him like he was garbage because he said that he didn't understand how people could be upset with the kneeling for the national anthem and being upset with the flag. Folks, look, look, in my city, we're dealing with with the attempted removal of a Confederate monument. And what's crazy is that it's a pastor apparently that's pushing this, which I don't understand what that has to do with Christianity necessarily. I don't know that you can say one way or the other. I'm not a big fan of the Confederate flag, the Confederate stuff. I don't care necessarily one way or the other. But the thing about that is that, this goes along with this whole impetus for removing every vestige of Confederacy from anybody that showing history or showing or seeming to glorify this idea. And I get it. I mean, I don't know that we should be glorifying anything from the Confederacy. I kind of agree with that, but tearing it down, I'm not sure that's not a bridge too far. That's just me. But it shows how crazy we are right now because, okay, so if you're against the Confederate flag, okay, I can understand why you might be against the Confederate flag. Then why are you kneeling for the American flag? The flag that was on the other side of the battlefield that fought against the Confederacy? And so when Drew Brees says, I can't understand how anybody could be against the, do a knee for the flag, people, hate on the guy? And then to make Colin Kaepernick this great martyr, this guy who discovered this cause when he got benched for a white guy, like a white guy benches him, and now he's this, he's discovered police brutality. Like, police brutality didn't just began coincidentally when he got benched. And I don't know that one has anything to do with the other, but I think that, that's the way it is. He got benched, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's got a cause now. And this guy's not a martyr, you know. First of all, he's half white. What is it with all these half white people that are running around, overcompensating for their blackness? I mean, who cares? I don't care what color you are. Just be a good person and do good things. Like Drew Brees. So Drew Brees is bad. Colin Kaepernick is good in this upside down crazy society in which we live. And everybody's running around accusing white people that didn't do anything. Now, I'm not saying every white person didn't do anything wrong. I'm just saying you can't accuse every white person of being racist. You especially can't do that if you're a Christian. And you can't align with these people. And I'm so tired of seeing these Christians, man. I'm tired of being lectured by Christians telling me how I'm not like caring enough for the plight of the black man and this sort of thing. Like you got to understand that the white man's in this special position. It's like, you sound like the racist to me. I don't look at black people and think they're inferior positions to me. I see a lot of them doing a lot of great things, and some of them that don't, probably because they're not doing the right things. And I see a world in which a lot of us are crapped on, and I don't think it has anything to do with color. I see white people getting crapped on. I don't think this world cares about that much. Evil is evil, and it looks for an opportunity to just be evil. And if it can excuse its evil, it's going to excuse it. I mean, that's just how the world is. And so I think that this primary thing is just to sort of scope out this idea of what it means to be a Christian in today's woke society, especially in regards to racism. And you can't be a Christian and be a Black Lives Matter supporter. At least not when you begin to understand what the group is and understand the implications of it. Again, you cannot accuse people of a heinous thing without evidence, because you are doing the devil's work. And I guess the question is once you realize that, then whose side are you on?